This is Balanand Penny regarding security in cloud, where we look at the various aspects of cloud security. Cloud is defined as a demand of self-service, and it's a broad network. And because of the industries are adopting cloud very quickly, and it's been ever expanding, one has to understand some basics and the foundation requirements of security in cloud. So, looking at that, let's look at some of the aspects. What is cloud? What are the various definitions of cloud, and then how it can be managed. Now, first thing is defining a cloud with NIST SP 800-145, where we look at the network, server, storage, and services which can be rapidly provisioning and released. And let's look at the slide where we call it infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The service provider provides these three different kinds of model. And when you look at the different models, we know that uh, each categorizes a different way of handling the cloud, and resources are defined in a different way. So the security also differ in each category as per the given service model. Trying to understand a little bit of infrastructure as a service is more like a hardware and the operating system. The platform of service is just like a platform where the services like databases, web servers, and containers are put in. The last one is a software as a service, which we look at as software as a service, where we have a lot of the complete package where we have the infrastructure, the platform, and the application. All the three are built in to set up as a single entity for the business to focus. What the idea here is that the business and the organization can focus on their business rather than on IT, where the service provider provides the full packaged. The danger in this is that um, the business gets logged in with the cloud. Whatever they're trying to provide service, he has to adhere to it. Similarly with platform as a service, but it'll be limited to the platform level. Software as a service, it is not limited to the platform because application also kicks in. So the business doesn't have any say on the application, the way it is written, any vulnerabilities within the application. It'll be unknown to the business. So these are security aspects and how do you go about it. So we are talking about the risk factor, which can never be fully eliminated. We can only mitigate it. And majority of the issues that happen in the cloud, the security threats that happens because of data breaches, human error, malicious insiders, hijacking, and DOS attacks. Let's look at the data types. Basically, so within the data types, you already know, as per the security um, guidelines, um, we have to maintain confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But the data types can become in two fashions. One is we talk about very highly secret and highly sensitive data, to the least secret to the least sensitive data. And depending upon the categorization, how the data has been encrypted, the data categorization would happen and its sensitivity of the matter. For example, a social security number is a class 5 data, and anything like pamphlets of a business that is trying to give to public is called is a very low level classification of the data. So highest classification is most secret, and the least significant of the data which is available for everybody is public. But that doesn't mean that the data, though it is available to public as which is the least what do you call protected, that wouldn't mean that its security is not needed, because we want to make sure that nobody is altering the data though it is public, nobody is misusing the data, and make sure that it is not bought down or been blocked. We also know that it has been regulations being applied to the data as per the personal information which is spoke just now. It also attaches some kind of financial records. Sometimes some of the GDPR like regulations, like HIPAA regulations, PCI regulations, all also matter as kind of data that is built in. Let's look at the data compliance. Security compliance is a legal matter and concerns where we have to make sure all the legal compliances are covered without any security breaches. Companies are spending large amounts of time and money to do these regulatory efforts. And data compliance examples like FISMA, which is the federal data where we receive the data from the US federal agencies. The second one is NIS directive, and last is the GDPR. This is a European. It protects and empowers citizens' data privacy and reshapes how organizations across the region protect the data privacy. Let's look at some of the compliance and examples, which we very. Let's look at one of the example as PCI. There's credit card, which people have the credit card number and also have secret behind the credit card. There are certain security standards and level depending upon the volume of the transactions the PCI does, depending upon whether the data is passed through or getting processed or is getting stored. The security controls at different levels have to be applied accordingly as per the PCI DSS standards. Now, let's having little bit known about the security in cloud. There are certain insecurities in cloud. So moving to the cloud does not mean everything is secured. You need to take care of some of the operations, some of the security guidelines which need to be followed. Let's look at the Google Cloud where they provided these particular. I'm looking at some specifics like private Google access, service perimeter, perimeter bridge, org policy, identity aware proxy, access context manager, and IAM policy and permissions. Now, let me look at the private Google Access. If you look at the private Google Access, this is one of the Google's very the protected kind of environment it creates because the IPs are private IPs. They are not exposed to public, and those cannot access to other environments. It's on the private network. So in that way, any backends like databases can communicate with the applications on the private network across the VPC virtual and uh, private network. So the VPC basically is nothing but a group of IPs and big group of sub network boundaries that we define within the cloud, where make sure that we are migrating access to public access and making them less vulnerable. Next, look at service perimeter. Service perimeter means we are looking at various services within the GCP where we say, hey, this service can communicate with this service B. Service A can communicate with service B with protected access, and the configurations are set up accordingly across the projects. Next is the perimeter bridge. When the services are set up, service perimeters, you can configure in such a way that one service perimeter can talk to another service perimeter. This is held with perimeter bridges. And this is different from a regular perimeter which we spoke before. The next is the org policy. Any organization like to have the common organization policy across the enterprise, and this can keep the security controls across the given business unit at the enterprise level uniformly. And this will make sure that what are the guidelines an organization has to follow, so that all the projects, all the alliances under the different under the given organizations follow the same guidelines. So this reduces the discrepancy of some of the mandatory security controls across the organization. They apply the constraints. That means every constraint is applied is different. Let's look at the identity aware proxy. Now, the IAP works in verifying that you're coming from a user is allowed to access, or building a block towards the enterprise security model enables to work with untrusted networks without. So the only authorized domains are allowed to communicate within the network. Next is the access context manager. If you look at the name, it suggests that, hey, we can say that here is the device IP, here is the address, here is user identity who's designated and provided the access to grant. So you provide a high trust, medium trust kind of level of connections with external devices. Next is identity and aware proxy. Identity and access management. So IAM is one of the major where we provide the users, the roles, and the permissions. There are three factors. So when the users are added, they can be grouped, and then we group the users, and then those users are provide certain roles. You attach the user to a role, and roles will have the permissions. So the permissions that are provided on the services are done through a least privilege technique. So we grant the resource access accordingly. Thank you.